Today I'm going to be discussing how best to use Poxwalkers with the new Death Guard rules. Now first of all I'm going to touch on the brief limitations, and that is of course the new Diseased Minions rules. And basically you can't have more Poxwalkers than Bubonic Astartes core infantry, which are Plague Marines, Terminators and Possessed. So you can't have more Poxwalker units than units of those, and given that you can't have any squads of those units of under 100 points, it's really difficult to get Poxwalkers in massive horde. Like, of course, before the Codex, at some points it was in meta to have like 100, 150 Poxwalkers in one list. However, now that's not really possible, and it's not realistic to have more than about maybe 60 or so Poxwalkers in one list, because you're not going to be able to have that many Plague Marines or Terminators. However, despite that limitation, if you use the Poxwalkers well, they still can be one of the strongest Death Guard units. And one of the neat things is that their base data sheet stat is toughness 4, meaning that they don't necessarily need Typhus to be a strong unit. Because of course previously they were strength 3, toughness 3, and with Typhus that would make them strength 4, toughness 4. However, now Typhus only buffs their strength, so Typhus is only really needed if you want the Poxwalkers to do a large amount of damage in melee. And although it is nice for them to do some damage when they get into melee, given that that's not really the main purpose of the Poxwalkers, which I'm going to discuss in a second, I don't really think it's viable to have Typhus with them. And of course you can't have multiple Lord of the Death Guards in one detachment, so I would personally put in a Lord of Virulence or Lord of Contagion instead of the Poxwalkers, probably a Lord of Virulence. So they don't necessarily need Typhus, which is actually quite useful. So their job that the Poxwalkers need to have is to really annoy the enemy, soak up their firepower, and lock them in combat. So the idea is, if you have, let's say, 2 or 3 squads of 20 Poxwalkers, either the enemy attacks those Poxwalkers, puts all their firepower into it, and then consequently they're able to kill those Poxwalkers, although then, because they've had to focus lots of their firepower on Poxwalkers, which will only be a small percentage of the list, because even having 60 Poxwalkers, that's only 300 points, and in a 2,000 point list, that's not really most of your army. And so either they get distracted by the Poxwalkers, forced to kill them, and then they're attacked quite easily by a few squads of Death Shroud or Plague Marines, or alternatively they don't focus on the Poxwalkers, and then once the Poxwalkers get close to them, the Poxwalkers are going to start locking the enemy up in combat, so they're going to be forced to go into combat with the Poxwalkers, meaning they're not going to be able to shoot at your more dangerous targets, and also they might just be going over objectives, and there'll just be so many of them that they'll control every objective that they're on, and the enemy at that point is going to be forced to kill them. So what you're basically doing is you're having 300 points, so only about 15% of your list of models that the enemy has to target, and they're going to do a ton less damage than, let's say, your Death Shroud. So overall you can use it to soak up a lot more firepower than they're worth, and the enemy's sort of forced to do that. And furthermore, if you use the Deadwalker Again stratagem, which is, of course, it's slightly changed, and instead of previously where it basically did the curse of the walking pox, but instead of the units the Poxwalkers killed, just for all nearby units, now you just pay 1 CP, and basically you roll 7d6s, and on the 3 up, one of that, on a 3 up on each of those dice, one model is added back, so you're going to get an average of 5 to 6 Poxwalkers added back on the field for just 1 CP, which is like 25-30 points. So that's actually really nice. And the way you can use that is, I don't know, you might have played Necrons, where it's really annoying if you're fighting, let's say, Necron Warriors, and you're able to kill all but 1 or 2 of them, and then they roll their reanimation protocols, and half of them come back to life. And what you can do is, by using this stratagem, you can make it so that if the enemy doesn't kill all of the Poxwalkers in the squad, then 5 or 6 of them are going to come back to life, and the enemy's really going to be forced to either not attack the Poxwalkers, which again is going to mean they're going to get locked up in combat and the Poxwalkers are going to swarm the objectives, or they're going to shoot the Poxwalkers and they're going to have to make sure they kill every single one in the squad, or you're going to have a ton more coming back next turn. And of course the enemy doesn't want that, so where like the enemy's bolter fire and their main anti-infantry might only kill 10 of your Poxwalkers in a squad of 20, if they don't fire any other weapons or melee weapons at those Poxwalkers, then 5 or 6 of them are going to come back to life, and their efforts to shoot the Poxwalkers are going to be pretty much worthless, particularly when you have a Tallyman on the board, because at the start of every command phase, you roll 2d6 with the Talisman, not with the Tallyman, and on a 7-up, you get 1 CP extra, so that's a 58% chance to get 1 extra CP every turn, and of course you gain 1 CP anyway from having the command, because it's command phase, so the Tallyman is certainly really useful and helps you use this Deadwalk against stratagem even more, because Tallyman is only about 50-60 points, and those CPs that he's going to get are going to be worth a lot more than that. So basically you're going to force the enemy to use their firepower that's not necessarily designed for anti-infantry and waste some that could be killing Terminators or Marines, and forced to waste that on Poxwalkers to kill the whole unit so they don't get back to life. And basically what these Poxwalkers can do is either just be really annoying when they get into melee. Ultimately, they're not going to do too much damage, but that's not really the aim of the Poxwalkers. They're going to get the enemy locked up in melee and be really annoying, or they're just going to soak up a ton of firepower and allow your real damaging units like your Plague Marines or Demon Engines or Death Shroud, like your Terminators, to get into melee and then start to do damage. So overall, the Poxwalkers are actually a really useful unit to have on the board, and if you only have, let's say, 40 of them, there's not really much harm, because that's only 200 points. If you're playing even a 1,000-point game, that's only a tiny portion of your list. So putting 2 or 3 squads of Poxwalkers is certainly worth it, and you don't necessarily need Typhus to have it. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications. I'm going to try and put out some more videos. Sorry it's taken a while for this one to come out. I'm really busy recently, so I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. But for now, bye.